Howdy folks, welcome back to day 2 of Gaijin's War Thunder air-ground combat coverage at Igromir. This, I have quite literally just finished watching what you're seeing now on the War Thunder livestream from Igromir. And it looks like today they're mostly focusing on covering the interaction between ground and air, as opposed to just showing the tanks. And it's answered a couple of questions. The point was made in one of the comments to the previous video that, specifically with regards to games like PlanetSide 2, is that any time you get ground versus air, air always wins. And then ground complains, and air gets nerfed, but air still wins because it's air. That is definitely a concern. And I know a lot of people were thinking, oh my god, aircraft is going to be just as overpowered in War Thunder as artillery is, or was, in World of Tanks. And, you know, that's a valid complaint. However, in a game like PlanetSide 2, air can capture ground targets. You know, you've got transports that you can use to deploy troops from the air. You can land your air vehicles at the ground targets, jump out of them, and capture. And one of the worries was that when you get one of these combined arms battle maps, nobody's going to bother playing the tanks because the aircraft are going to be so overpowered. And while you might be disappointed that you're not going to see any tank action in this video, it might at least go some way towards reassuring the tankers who are feeling a little bit put upon by the proliferation of aircraft. One of the worries was that if aircraft were just too overpowered and tanks couldn't handle them, then nobody driving tanks would bother playing the combined arms battles, and it would just be a bunch of people in Ju-87 circling around looking for victims, and then and it would basically end up being a War Thunder aircraft arcade ground domination battle, except without any tanks to shoot at. And that's certainly certainly something to worry about. So what today's live stream has showed is the problems that you're going to have if nobody chooses to drive tanks on your team. The next battle that loads up, almost everybody on the blue team has gone with aircraft, and you'll see the sort of problems that they face. Because to win one of these War Thunder arcade battles, you can do it in one or two ways. You can destroy all of the players on the enemy team, or you capture and hold all the ground targets. And you can't capture and hold all the ground targets when you only have 3 of your players in tanks. Well, you might say, in that case, just kill all of the enemy tanks with your aircraft. Well, it's easier said than done. First you have to find them. And as we saw in the earlier video, enemy tanks do not get a target indicator if you're flying an aircraft. You have to visually spot them with the old Mark 1 eyeball. And that's not too easy from this kind of altitude. See, we can see that they're capturing that point down below. Can't see the tanks that are doing it though. And you have to be careful when you're dropping big bombs from a medium bomber like the IL-4. There's going to be a huge... what's the right way to put this? It's going to be open to abuse. Imagine if you're flying a bomber like this, and the tanks that you do have are engaged in some furious tank-to-tank battles at the one remaining unclaimed capture point, and you fly over and carpet bomb the area. You know, it's like in World of Tanks, when you're face-hugging an enemy tank and artillery decides to take a shot. You're going to be in just as much a danger to your team as you are to the enemy. And there are ways to avoid getting hit from the air. First of all, don't be seen. There is so much cover from aerial observation on these maps. Look at all the trees. I mean, yeah, if you drive along the middle of an open road, Well, you're making yourself an easy target for the tanks, but you're making yourself a sitting duck for the aircraft. Just ask the Wehrmacht what happened in Normandy in 1944 when they tried to travel by road during the day. If driving around in the open in a tank when there are enemy bombers circling overhead seems like a dumb thing to do, that's because it is a dumb thing to do, so don't do it. And of course the other thing you can do to avoid getting bombed from above is keep moving. Once a bomb's been released from an aircraft, it doesn't get consulted on which way it wants to go. Your tank does. And note how low these medium bombers have to go to actually get eyes on to the targets. That's going to make them a sit and duck for anti-aircraft defences and friendly fighters. Now the enemy team in this map doesn't seem to have much or of any aircraft up, which means there are basically lots and lots and lots of frustrated pilots on this team flying around with absolutely nothing to shoot at. And they're finding it very, very difficult to actually locate any tanks. And of course, you can't capture a ground target when you're driving a Sturmovik, or an IL-4, or an Ishak. So at this stage, the only real way for these guys to win is for them to kill all of the enemy ground forces. But as this video hopefully is evidence, that's a lot easier said than done. And if you're in close combat with enemy tanks, you make it very, very, very dangerous, as you're going to see here, for enemy aircraft to pick you off. I'm amazed that those rocket strikes didn't take out the friendly tank. And you're probably going to see a lot of that in combined forces battles in War Thunder. I mean, you get shot at by your own team in War Thunder arcade flight battles anyway. I've lost track of the number of times I've taken more damage from my own team shooting through me to get to the aircraft that I'm on the tail of than the enemy team have ever done to me. But, you know, that's not a problem with War Thunder, that's a problem with people, because multiplayer games is where arseholes live. Oh. Never mind, son, better luck next time. So anyway, hopefully, and I confess that there's still a massive amount of balancing needed to be done. But I think they're on the right track. And I don't think that air versus ground in War Thunder has the potential to be as massively overbalanced and in favour of air, for example, that you get in a game like PlanetSide 2. And hopefully today's video may have gone some way to reassuring those of us who love driving our tanks that the aircraft aren't going to have it all their own way. As always, folks, take care on that battlefield. Watch your six. I'll catch you next time.